All right. Welcome, folks. Welcome to Friday night. Welcome to the late shift. Man, I think I mentioned last week that I'm going through a process of trying to kind of streamline my workflow. And last week was the first week that I really tried to use it on stream. Let me adjust that chair. And then I did much of my prep this week using that same workflow. And man, it just all fell to pieces on me here tonight. So I've got a lot of work to do. So thank you all for your patience. And it's good to see you all out there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Goodness, and thanks for hanging out and just waiting it out. Nice to see all you folks out there in green. I see Tim, Grayman Poda. Welcome, Tim. Tim, you didn't make the first spot tonight. Dave Hillbilly Ham beat you out, but good to have you guys both out there. Good to see the other Tim. I've got Tim and Tim back to back here as first channel members to join. So welcome, you guys. Tim, I think you're going to enjoy tonight's topic. Rockets and radio, Tim. I'm hoping the other Tim enjoys it as well. But we're going to be talking about some geeky satellite stuff. So I think it's a fun topic, though. It's kind of fun in that it's like a problem we've seen before, again and again. In a different shade of gray, maybe, but you guys will see what I mean when we get into it. Essentially what we're talking about here tonight, and the main topic for tonight, for those of you who want to decide if you're sticking around, is we're going to talk about the satellite catalog ID numbering system. This month, probably as early as next week, we're going to run out of satellite numbers in our current numbering scheme. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that can be, how that came to be, how long we've been preparing for this, and how ill-prepared we are. And that's not fair. There's some folks that have done their due diligence. They've done the good work. And they're ready. They're ready for the change. But as you guys will see as we dig into this topic, that's not the case for everybody. So we're gonna learn a little bit about who's ready and who's not. And not only that, we're going to talk a little bit, put a little bit of extra spin on it. I know Josh had, was it last week? I think it was last week. Gosh, time flies. I think it was last week. Josh had some discussion about the influx of vibe-coded or AI-assisted applications that are kind of flooding ham radio. And so there's a spin to this whole thing related to that as well. And I don't need to draw you guys a picture. It's pretty obvious, but we're going to talk about that as well. Jason with a 556. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Just because good streams must continue, no matter how hard it is. Well, it's not hard. It's, I screwed it up myself, but it is what it is. Typhoon Tim and Tornado Tim. I like that. You know what? You guys would be like an awesome tag team duo, right? I can see it. I can see it right now. You guys would be an awesome tag team duo. Need to get you guys on the wrestling circuit. All right, let's see. So that's our topic. There's, you know, a number of different angles. We're going to talk about those various angles. And man, and maybe I'll try to get some of this stuff working as we go. I'm going to have to get some of it working. Let me see if I can at least, oh boy. All right, let's see here. Where am I at? Can we make this work? Yeah, I think we can. Boy, this isn't, boy, guys, I got this all jacked up. All right, I don't know how I got this so jacked up, but I do. I've got her all jacked up. Well, wait a second. Maybe, am I doing something silly there? Let's see. Okay. All right. I can make that work. So we'll use that. Okay. So yeah, that's going to be our big topic tonight. I think it's a good meaty topic. I think there's a lot of interesting edges to it. And, you know, like I said, this is going to sound awful familiar to you guys, especially my Gen X brothers out there who've kind of lived through some of the same tech-related things that I have in my career. There's some parallels there for sure. So we'll get into that and talk to some of that as we go. All right, let's see here. Goodness, Paul whipping out the wallet tonight. Holy smokes. Thank you, Paul. 10 gift memberships to lots of deserving folks out there. I'm not going to read them all off. You know who you are. You can see who you are. But dang. Thank you, Paul. That's awesome. That is awesome. I certainly appreciate that. I looked up and I saw all this this green scrolling through the chat. I'm like, what in the heck is that? Yeah, Mark Romo. Satellites. Yeah, we're talking about satellites. Okay, let's see here. What else did I miss? I'm just catching up here. I got the super chat. Thank you again, Jason. I got the gift memberships. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you both. I appreciate that. And let's go ahead and let's jump into some things. I hate when I'm this poorly prepared because I know I'm going to miss some stuff, but hey, we'll work through it. First of all, just a couple of housekeeping items. You guys know I like to talk about these items here. First of all, the community list. If you're not signed up, you might want to consider signing up. I do an occasional newsletter. I've actually done like one a month for the last 3 months. So I'm actually due one here for July. So I'm not doing a ton of them, but I'm doing enough, I think. So if that's something you're interested in, I talk about all the things that are coming up from a travel and adventure standpoint. I talk about, follow up to certain topics that we cover from a video or live stream perspective. What else do I include in there? A bunch of affiliate links, coupon codes, things of that nature. Those are always published in there as well. And probably the biggest selling point is if you want to win anything on this channel when we do giveaways, and we have one coming up here in just a couple of months, our 1 year anniversary, our 1 year live stream anniversary, you got to be on the community list. All the drawings are pulled from the community list. So I always like to mention that. I also like to mention here that I've got you know what? I do this all the time, and I don't know if Bill's helping me. I need a Frank. I need a Frank really bad. How do you get to the community list? Right there. Sorry, folks. bitsy/CL. That'll get you to the community list. That's just a little link shortener there to try to make it easy. Right. So let's get rid of that guy. Let's go over here to the link list here. This is bitsy/dr, and this is just various links, a lot of ways to support the channel through some different merch and discount codes, affiliate links, all those types of things. So if you're looking to make a purchase and you want to support the channel in some way that doesn't cost you anything extra, this is a great way to do that. So I appreciate when folks use these links. Some of them are discount codes. Some of them are just affiliate links. I try to call those out so that it's very clear for you guys. I also list some of my favorite things. And then I also host Typhoon Tim, Rockets and Radio Tim's satellite guides out here. Those are always real popular. I get several of those that get downloaded every week. So you can find all that stuff right out there at bitsy/dr. All right. This and that. Let's talk about this and that. So I've got a few things here to share from a this and that perspective. And boy, you see, I jacked that up. Do you guys see that? Boy, I got this thing just a mess. Anyway, I put out a video here just today. It actually went out today, where I do a review on a LED light strip. I know some folks are concerned about trying to add these to their shack because they have a reputation, right? Some of these things have a bad reputation. This one's a pretty good one. I was pretty impressed with it. So I show you guys how I'm using it here in the shack. If that's something you're interested in, check out that video. This is an interesting topic. I don't know if you guys, I know a lot of you guys are involved in Raspberry Pi stuff, and so you may be familiar with the Pi-hole project. And this is a project that helps you eliminate some of the stuff on your network that you don't want on your network. Things like ads, right? It does some ad blocking type stuff. It does some other good stuff. But they, for a long time, folks have been hoping that Pi-hole would support encrypted DNS. So there's a couple of different fashions in which that is accomplished, right? A couple of different protocols. You can do a DOT or a DOH, and that's just it's a different protocol. It's a different port. So DNS usually uses port 53 for all you geekies out there who dabble in your TCP/IP port stuff. Your encrypted DNS uses different ports, and this post started getting a lot of attention because essentially Pi-hole is showing a little graph here that's showing that they've got some encrypted DNS going on. And this is a widget out of the Pi-hole dashboard. And so they're kind of showing some of the traffic and whatnot. So if that's, if you're a Pi-hole user or you've wanted to use Pi-hole to do some different things on your network, but for one reason or another were turned off because it couldn't do encrypted DNS, that's going away. Now, they haven't specifically said when this is going to be released, but you can see this was from just a couple of days ago. I expect it to be imminent, right? It shouldn't be too long, and that'll be nice. There's lots of different ways you can do that, certainly, but usually it includes jumping through a bunch of hoops to do that. So, many of you probably know whenever you go to a website, you get the little lock. Where did that go? you get the little lock in your browser on the URL, right? I think we're all pretty familiar with that. But what that is doing is encrypting your traffic to the web server that you're talking to. What still goes in the clear, unless you do something about it, is all of the DNS resolution. So when you type in a URL to go to a certain website, that's actually passed in the clear on port 53. And if somebody is crafty enough, they can, they can't see what you're doing on a website, but they can see all the websites you're going to. So that's why encrypted DNS is so important. So that's kind of a cool thing. So I wanted to share that with you guys. What else do I have? I have a couple of more of these to share. You guys have told me that you enjoy seeing some of these things, so I thought I'd throw them in from time to time. These are a couple Life on the Ranch items for you guys. So here on the ranch, I've got well water and I've got city water. So city water goes to the house, well water's for the barn. We also have a spigot up here at the house so we can wash cars and do all that kind of stuff without paying city water for it, blah, 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 blah. And so this week, we went to fill up some of the water troughs for the goats, and it was nada. There was nothing happening. And, usually what that means is your well pumps out, or there's a problem with the power getting to your pump switch. And so I went, turned off or checked the breaker. Breaker was still on, threw the breaker, because you're getting full juice into these pump switches. That's something to keep in mind. You are getting all the power coming out of your box. All the power that that breaker can throw in that direction is hitting that well switch. So you always want to make sure you turn that off. You never want to mess around with the power going into a well switch. So I threw the power, went over and opened up that shed where that well is housed, or where the switch and whatnot is housed. And there were just ants all over the place. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I mean, a lot of ants, these little teeny tiny ants, the ones that just bite and then, drives you crazy for a week. Those little stinging red ants. So I got a broom, brushed everything off there, and I pulled the cap off of that well switch. Now, I don't know if you guys know what a well switch is supposed to look like. This is not what a well switch is supposed to look like. That is a whole lot of ants on the well side of the switch for whatever reason. So that left side is where the power comes in from the breaker box, and then you hook the well side, the pump side, up on the right. And for whatever reason, those ants decided that was a good place to be, and they made camp. It was like an inch thick of ants in a cake. And for whatever reason, they were right when I threw whenever that switch was engaged, power was not getting through. So all I had to do was just get the broom out, sweep all those suckers off, and I was right back in action. But I had never seen that before. That is crazy. Water pressure switch. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys have ever seen something like that, but I mean, I tell you, I was like scratching and itching for like hours after that. I just never seen so many ants packed in one place like that. So, that was some fun ranch stuff. And then, here's some more fun ranch stuff. This is the first copperhead of the season. So this guy, decided he wanted to hang out right up by my smoker. I've got a big oak tree that the smoker sits under to try to get some shade whenever you're smoking, smoking a brisket or something. And this guy decided that was a place that he wanted to hang out. Well, he got smoked. Yes, he did, Tim. So we've got a specific snake pew pew. So it's loaded up with some shot, and I hadn't fired it since last year, so not quite enough for a belt. No, but you know, I don't know if you guys know the deal with venomous snakes and copperheads. I'm assuming it's the same with other venomous snakes. I know specifically with copperheads, they say the smaller they are, the more dangerous they are, in that their ability to regulate the venom that they're dumping when they bite you is not well formed or mature enough. So you basically get it all. You get the full dump. So getting bit by a small copperhead, they say, is worse than getting bit by a large copperhead. Same with sidewinders, Bob. Yeah, I believe that. Yep, that's what I've heard, Dave. Yep, that's exactly right. They don't know how to control the venom yet, so you kind of get the full dump. So I know some people say you shouldn't kill snakes, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. I am not a fan. And I know they do lots of good stuff, blah, blah, blah. But, I've had dogs that have been bitten. We get all of our dogs inoculated. We get a rattlesnake inoculation for them. Copperheads are bad, but rattlesnakes are worse. And if you get them inoculated, they seem to do better. It's still an ordeal for them, but they seem to do better. I've had my dogs nailed by copperheads in the past, and it's no fun. So yeah, we've got rattlesnakes here as well. Luckily, knocking on wood, I don't see them very often. I know. I'll share this with you guys. I know it was a couple of field days ago. Let me think. It was probably 3 years ago. We were doing field day with the local club here. Great local club, and they used to do field day out at this this kind of off-road park. You guys may remember me talking about that. But it's a great place to do field day. It's you're out, you're off grid, right? You have to deal with all that kind of thing. But Jason, Frank, and Mike had come out to play field day out there with us that year. And I think this was 2 years, maybe 3 years ago at this point. And Mike had an encounter with a rattlesnake. So I know he put it in his video, so you guys may recall. But yeah, so we get the rattlers here as well. Yeah, especially on planes. We don't like snakes on planes. We don't like snakes anywhere. Forget it, man. Forget it. All right, let's see, what else do I have for you guys? Just a couple other items here. These are kind of just a couple of fun things. We'll save that. Oh, you know what? It's so funny here. So, I had this situation here, right, where I had this water switch issue, and I'm looking through X. I think it was today I saw this, and I see somebody's got a picture of their water switch, their pump switch, here as well. And I don't know if you guys follow Matthew Lawson, KC7EQ O. Um, he's got a fun X feed, and he posts lots of good stuff. But it was just coincidentally, those guys were having an issue with their switch as well. Now their issue was, and this is a good picture of what that switch looks like without a bunch of ants in it, right? Compared to this one. But the issue they had is, for some reason, they had a short or something, or just the switch had failed, and they had one of the wires that had glowed so hot that it melted right through that case, and you can see it right there in that top picture. So I just thought that was pretty interesting and coincidental. All right, one more item I have to share with you guys is I want to announce my latest affiliate partnership. So I just recently became an affiliate with Eberlestock. As you guys know, for quite a long time, I've been using their gear, been a fan of their gear. For many years, they didn't have an affiliate program. And they recently, maybe a year or so ago, I think I saw that they started taking on some affiliate partnerships, and I had reached out to them because they had recently come out with some new chest packs. And you guys likely know that I use the Multipack as my current FM satellite rig bag. And also, as many of you know, they used to have some MOLLE attachment points on the front, but they had since done away with that. Well, these new chest packs that they come out with now have MOLLE on the front of them again. And so this one is similar in size. And the other thing that's a little different is they include the shoulder harness with this as well. So with the Multipack, you had to buy the shoulder harness separately. But this is all packaged together. So I'm working to get one of these out so I can do a review on it and see if this is a good successor to that pack. So I was pretty excited to get partnered up with these guys because I use a ton of their gear, right? My everyday backpack is a Eberlestock Switchblade. All their clothing is good stuff. It actually fits me, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they've got lots of great stuff. The Romad is a great bag. Hamdalorian, good call. Lots of good stuff there. Hill People stuff is very good as well, Gray Man. I like that stuff as well. Hey, Don, welcome. Pepe, I didn't see you out there before, but I see you now. Welcome. Good to see you in the chat. But, I'm excited to get my hands on this and see how it works out. So not only as a FM satellite pack, but I also have a linear mobile satellite kit, and it might be a good fit for that as well. So I'm excited to check that out. They actually have this in two different sizes. They have the Force, and then I think the other one is the Fury, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the Fury. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit cheaper. It's a little bit smaller, but they've got these little side wings. So you could add things like the Recon Rangefinder pack, or some of their other or other third-party MOLLE items on there as well. So I'm going to try to get my hands on both of these. This one here is actually sold out right now, so might have to wait on that. But that's something that I'll be sharing here on the channel before long. I am well overdue in doing a refresh of my satellite kit for the channel. Let's see. Tim likes HPG as well. Yep. They do make good stuff. There's no doubt about it. All right. Well, let's see here. I think I have a little bit of recovery to try to get done. Let's see here. Let's bring this up. I want to try to, well, I can probably, let's see. Let's start with this. I think this is a good place to start. Unfortunately, I've got some of my other artifacts that are just, I was trying to get it going, but I just wasn't able to get it going here before stream. But you guys may, well, maybe you may or you may not recognize this because I've recently done some work to it. So you guys are getting a little bit of preview of a redeployment, if you will, of the SatelliteHunter web page. And so you guys may recall I had a tool that I called the interactive TLE Explorer that we talked about, I don't know, a few months back. And I've essentially done a little bit of work to it, reskinned it. I think this looks a little bit better. And I think this will work a little bit better as I start to build out more content for the site. But this will give us a good foundation for our chat. So just to kind of orient you guys here a little bit, and let me get my chat over here so I can keep an eye on you guys. Did I move forward 44net? So I'm going to put a pin in that, Dawn. We can catch that after we get through the TLE discussion here. So you guys may recall, right? This is a tool. It's just an teaching tool or an education tool. I added a little blurb here to tell you a little bit about it. But essentially what it is it allows you to look at a representation of a two-line element or a TLE. This is actually one from several months back. This is an actual TLE set from the International Space Station. And essentially what you can do with this is just come on here and click on a number, and it'll highlight what that number is down here in the chart, and then it'll tell you a little bit about it, right? So if you want to know, what's this U mean, right? What's this classification all about? And then, I go into a little more detail here if you guys want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on it. So it's just kind of an educational tool, right? But this is, and you guys may recall, right? This has been around, gosh, I think that since the, boy, oh boy. I'm going to have to, what I have in my head just doesn't feel right. So let me pull up my notes here because I don't want to completely just whiff this here and tell you guys something wrong. I think it's been around since like maybe the 40s or the 50s. But I do have some notes here. Let me just try to find that real quick. Yeah, I think it's been around for a long time, but it was actually, and it's been around longer than it's been distributed, right? So it wasn't until the 70s, maybe it's the 50s, it might be the late 50s. I think it's the late 50s when this format came to be. And it wasn't until the 70s to this data was distributed to the public. Prior to that, it was military data, I guess, is the way you would want to think about that. Okay, so this stuff's been around for a long time, and this format's been around for a long time, and it was actually designed to fit and work with card punch machines. So that tells you just how long this stuff's been around. So yes, telemetry data in some manner. You can see there's a number of orbital dynamic details here, but this in and of itself doesn't give you the information how it's typically used today. There's additional tools that are used with this data to determine a satellite's orbit and path. Right, so this is kind of the raw material to determining what that satellite orbital dynamics are, right? What that path is, and things like how far it is over the horizon, those types of things, right? So all of this information is put through some other tooling to kind of create that data. But the piece that we're particularly interested in tonight is the SAT number, right? And you can see here, this is a 5-digit number. And this is a fixed length set of data, right? So, and if we look at the SAT number here, this is what's called the catalog number of the satellite. And so everything that goes into space gets a catalog number, right? This is how stuff is tracked, right? And so it's assigned by US Spacecom. You can see that right here. And they're responsible for assigning a catalog ID to every piece of equipment or junk that's in space. And so, again, this has been around for a long time. And, when I start thinking about this, my mind kind of goes to, and this is what I meant by my Gen X buddies out there will have lived through this. I start thinking about the Y2K issue that many of us had to deal with in our professional lives, dealing with the rollover of the date to the year 2000, right? Many of the systems at that time just weren't. It wasn't contemplated that these systems some of these old systems would still be in use at the time of the millennial change, right? And so there wasn't a lot of thought put in toward, what happens when some of these old systems are still in use and these systems can't handle that date change. So this is not too far from that same kind of broad concept, right? The field itself obviously can track or has from 0 to 99,999 potential digits to track stuff with. But the other part that's interesting here is that some of those digits are they're reserved for other purposes. So really, we've got 69,999 usable numbers in this 5-digit group. So it's finite, but it's even smaller than you think it is. And we are quickly approaching the end of the number scheme. And so, just like we had lots of systems that were built many, many years before Y2K that didn't contemplate, that these systems would still be around. We've got ham radio software and other professional satellite tracking software that was built around these 5-digit schemes that, folks probably didn't think was going to be around for 30 years. And we're kind of in that same predicament where we've got a bunch of systems that are not going to do well when this number scheme changes. So I think, let me think, I've got one other item here that I can share with you guys that came out of my This and That segment. Right, so this was from a couple of days ago. AMSAT posted there's only 65 more objects until the available object numbers in TLEs are exhausted. So that's how close we are, right? And, a lot of this has been accelerated by the acceleration in these rideshare programs and the many, many more satellites being launched into space, right? Especially when you think of things like Starlink, right? These guys are putting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of satellites up, and things are going into space at a rate that I don't think anyone contemplated. Certainly, they didn't contemplate this stuff back in the 50s. So, here we are, deja vu all over again. So that's the problem, right? That's where we're at from a problem perspective. Let me get this back over here. And let me catch up with the chat here just a little bit. Okay, Y2K night sucked. Yeah, it was, I don't know about you guys. So I was in a hospital. I worked in hospitals and health systems for a lot of years. And I was actually in a hospital system during this time. And, hospitals were, I think, some of the least prepared types of systems. Hospital systems were some of the least prepared going into this event, which really turned out to be a non-event. But we'll set that aside for a minute. But I saw somebody said it was the best pizza party ever. Who was that? Jody. Yeah. So Jody, that was my experience too, right? We had the boardroom in the hospital. We had, we had a group of folks that had to be on site, like ready to go. It was so funny. I recall coming into the hospital, you came in, you checked in, you went into the boardroom area, you checked in, you were issued a flashlight. A flashlight. What else? There was something else. You were issued a flashlight. Oh, and some people got a Motorola radio, right? So there weren't enough radios for everybody, but key individuals got radios. So they were issued a radio and everybody got a flashlight, which I thought was just hilarious. But yeah, it basically turned into a big pizza party that resulted in nothing, essentially. All right, let's see here. Hey, Frank, appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for bringing in your crew, and thanks for hanging out for a while. Yep, you got it, John. A gigantic non-event. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, and hospital networks aren't better off 26 years later. That's scary. That's too bad. All right, let's see here. So I think I'm caught up. I think I got most of the gist of what's out there. Okay, so this is the problem. What what's being done about it? What's the solution? Well, there's a couple of grab this and bring this over. There's a couple of different approaches to this, to solving this problem, and there is, the there's a kind of a more complete and better path, and then there's the I'll call it the lazy man's path. That's probably not entirely fair, but I'm going to call it the lazy man's path anyhow. And so the more correct path is a new standard that's been established for some time. And, I think it's worthwhile to also just take a minute and talk about, right? We know this, this has been around for years and years and years. And folks like AMSAT and other professional organizations and groups started talking about this being a problem around, I'd say 2012, 2013, right? So like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, people were talking about this as, a cliff that eventually we would hit. And so there were a couple of strategies that have been developed, and kind of the correct path is it's really a brand new standard, and it uses if I'm not mistaken, it's a 9-character field for the catalog number. And there's also a lot of kind of metadata or additional data that's part of that data package, right? And it's packaged up in more contemporary data structures. It's not done in a fixed field 2-line string of characters like we're seeing here, right? It's packaged in like a JSON object, or there's a few different manners in which where'd this go? Sorry folks, I'm trying to make sense of some stuff here on my screen. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So you've got this new approach. It's called OMM, or Orbital Mean Elements Message. Shorthand is OMM. And, like I said, this uses some different data structures. And let me see here, actually. I think I can show you some examples of that. Right, so if this is what we use today, and I say what we use today, these new OMM data structures and orbital elements have been provided since, I think it's 2020. So lots of applications and systems have already migrated to this. So that's the good news, right? That not everybody uses TLEs. But as you might suspect, a lot of ham radio applications still use TLEs. But a lot of the, more professional related software has moved on to the OMM approach and standard. But let me see here. let me get another page ready for you guys here. Okay, here we go. So here, and I put a little web page together just to share some of this information, and we'll walk through this later this evening. But this is a portion of that, and so. And these are really designed so that if you guys have applications that you're not sure if they work yet with these two new approaches, this is some test data that you can use to test your applications, if your applications will allow you to load TLEs. Okay. So if we take a look up top here, this is the classic. This is very similar to what we just looked at here on the other page. And then they've also come up with this other scheme, and this is the, the one I unfairly called the lazy man scheme, right? The lazy man's approach. And they call it Alpha 5. And so what they've done is they've essentially tried to create a scheme that will allow systems to operate, those systems that are still using TLE formats. The idea is to allow those to still operate. Okay. And what they do and how they do that here, and this is an example of it, is they, you still have the same 5-character designation, but they're using an alpha character in that first position to designate kind of that rollover figure, right? So if, you max this out with 9s and you have 99,999, if you take A with 4 zeros, then that decodes to 100,000, right? So that gives you many, many, many more options for satellite IDs or space junk IDs, all the things that they use these catalog IDs for, right? And if you think about it, right, you can go A through Z. However, they do skip ID 0 or ID O and ID I so that they don't get confused with a 1 or a 0. So you don't have 26, but you have 24 additional designators that you can use in this scheme. Now that sounds pretty great, right? Until you start thinking about how these systems are actually programmed to work, right? We'll get into that a little bit later. Let me just take a quick look here and make sure I haven't lost you guys from a chat perspective. You guys still following along? Does this make sense? Am I making sense? I feel bad that I don't have some of my other artifacts to walk through here, but hopefully this is getting the idea across. All right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, hex is another approach, certainly. But again, hex is a problem once you look at how these systems actually use this data. Hey, Roger, welcome. Good to see you out there. Let's see if they have to traverse the DNS via BP packet and then are turned back to SP packets for delivery. I think ISS uses DSN, but maybe not. Protobuf. Yeah, a lot of folks are using Protobuf these days. All right. So that's the one scheme, right? And then here is the OMM scheme right here. So there's a few different types formats this data can be provided in. Right, so this is using, this is what the data for FO29 looks like, right? So I list that here with a number of different packaging types, right? This is a JSON object here, so you can see how that is, how that's provided. Here is another version of that JSON using a 6-digit number, right? Some of these are just variations. Let's see here. Here's another version. This is a key value pair type notation that is also provided, right? So, you know, those are going to be the options going forward. You can either retrofit your software to be able to use this alpha 5, where you're adding an alpha character at the beginning of the string, right? And therein kind of lies the problem, right? Most of these systems, when they ingest this data, this is a 5-digit number, so they're turning it into an integer where if they pass this data in that manner, they're going to have a problem, right? Because this has a string in it. And so depending on how they're handling errors in their application, right, these things might just crash. These programs might just crash because now this is no longer an integer. It is truly a string. And you've got to do something else to manipulate that. So that's the problem here, where this looks like the easy way out, but it's really not, because now you've got to, you've likely got to do a bunch of work in your ETL process. If it's, you know, you can kind of think of it as an ETL process whenever you're ingesting this data. All right. All right, cool. Let's see here. So we know what the problem is. We know what the solutions are, right? Let's talk about who's doing what and how they're doing it, right? So, so I created this little page here just as a reference for folks. And what I did is, and I am sure this is not exhaustive, right? But let me just walk you through it first, right? So I've got a little explanation up here that talks about what the problem is and what's changing. So you can read that. I've got a little key here for all of these different tool types and what these things mean. But then I break these tools into some different groupings, right? In this first grouping here are a number of libraries that developers use in the development of their software to manage this data in their application, right? So, you know, oftentimes developers aren't going to handle you know, they're not going to reinvent the wheel. They're going to use tooling that exists and has existed for quite some time to help them in their process. And so these are a number of those different libraries that I look at. So in addition to those libraries, I also look at a bunch of different tools. And these are tools, these are programs, these are desktop and SDR related tools that we all use and are familiar with, right? And so I talk about a bunch of tools that you guys likely are aware of. Again, I do not think this is exhaustive. I'm hoping you guys think of things that I haven't thought about, and then I can add them to the list. And then we also have some things like mobile apps, right? These are other programs that a lot of hams use to track satellites in the ISS, right, when they're working satellites. So those are kind of the big groupings. I also have some other things that we've talked about here on the channel that people will be able to relate to and that they may be familiar with that also use orbital data or TLE data. Right, so I've got a number of different groupings here. Like I said, I've generated some test samples, right? So if you want to test your applications, and then I've also provided some authoritative sources for all of this information, right? If you want to dig in deeper, if you want to learn about, you know, the documentation around things like Alpha 5 or OMM, right? I give you guys a bunch of sources here where you can do that. And then I also, right, for you guys, I know we have a lot of folks in the community that are building things, right? They're building satellite related software and firmware, right? Here are some references that you guys might find useful. Okay. So I've tried to just pull this stuff together. I did a bunch of research. I couldn't find a definitive source for this information. And, for me, it's a great way to learn and understand what's going on, to try to pull some of this information together. So that's what I've done here. I've created this little reference site so that hopefully it's helpful to some of you guys. Now, how did I generate this? How did I create this? So what I did was, for those items that are open source, where we have access to the source code, I got some help from AI, and I would scan the actual code base looking for clues, right? Looking to see if they have references to OMM or references to Alpha 5, or to see if they have some telltale signs that they have not tried or they have not addressed the issue, right? And there are some like telltale signs that you can find out there. And we'll talk about Open Ham Clock a little bit more because I want to talk about how how this impacts vibe coded projects. And, these guys have been very open that this is a vibe coded AI assisted source code. So I'm not saying anything that hasn't been already discussed widely in the community. But if you go out and you look through some of their source code, they're using functions like A to I, right? And this is a telltale sign that they are still using TLE data, where they're taking the NORAD ID, the catalog ID, and they're changing it from an alpha to an integer, right? That's what this A to I function does. So there's some things that you can look for in the source code that give you a pretty good indication if that software is ready. Now, I am not saying that this is definitive, right? And I put a little disclaimer down here because, and I don't know if maybe folks won't see this, maybe they will, right? I'm not trying to point the finger at folks. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to create a reference for our community, right? And I'm hoping that we can add to this reference and we can correct any errors that I may have made in compiling this information, right? So, if all of a sudden your app stops working next week, you know, if you've heard this, you've been plugged into this, you might realize that, hey, my app might actually be broken, right? And so, some of this is just raising that awareness as well. Now, in addition to looking at the source code, I've also scanned several resources to try to paper trail, if you will, a status, right? So you guys, and I try to be very clear about the evidence that I use to determine the status. And so that's what the detail is here. But most of you guys likely don't, you're probably not familiar with some of these libraries. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I will say that this Python SGP4 is probably one of the more more used libraries for contemporary software. This is kind of one of the go-tos. But it's not the only one. And you can see that some of them are ready to go and some of them aren't. And some of them are in, what we call this partial state where, maybe they can utilize Alpha 5, but they're not able to use OMM data, right? So like in this example here, right, there's no A2I, there's no kind of telltale functions in there that lead me to believe that passing an alpha string into something that's expecting an integer is going to break, right? So I'm assuming, and there's some assumption going on here, that this library will work for Alpha 5. Now, that doesn't mean that the rest of the application that's utilizing that library will work. I'm just talking about the library itself. So let me take a pause here and see if this makes sense to everybody. Let's see. Sean, welcome. WTF Radio. Nice to see you out there. Let's see here. Jody, probably just the red teamer in me, but I'd seed test data with malformed entries to vet the quality of the input validator just as an effort to help detect. Yeah, I mean, that should be standard practice. Certainly, I think it is in professional development shops, Jody, but the blessing and the curse of vibe coding and AI assisted software is, now we have so many people that have an opportunity to get their ideas out into some functional state, which, I am a big fan of. I think there is a lot of great benefit to people being able to use these tools to create new solutions. But, the downside to that is, they're not using best practices in that development. They're not building unit tests. They're not validating. They're not doing negative testing. Those are all disciplines from a professional software development standpoint that, vibe coders likely aren't going to be familiar with and, likely aren't going to implement. But, just because somebody has written software the hard way or the old-fashioned way, that is no guarantee that they are using good practices either. So let's not just assume that vibe coding is bad and traditional coding is good, because you can have folks in both camps at the same time, right? So that's really how I made my determinations here, right? And so whenever we get into looking at some of the desktop tools, there's some well-known names out here that are not ready, right? Gpredict. I mean, I am a Gpredict fan. Yes, it's old. Yes, it's ugly. Yes, it's kind of clunky. But once you kind of get familiar with it and you use it, it becomes like an old pair of shoes, right? And this is one that is clearly not ready. This one is going to have a problem. Hey, Arnie, nice to see you out there. Reducing HF noise. Yeah, there's some folks trying to do that for sure, and folks that are having some success with it, I think. But, I think there's some names on here that are going to bum some people out, right? Gpredict is one of those, right? We've used Gpredict here on the channel before for different projects. Now, there's some names out here that I think people will have some relief when they see, right? Sat PC32, I think, is pretty popular, and that's been around for a long time as well. But some of these folks are, who have built some of these tools are still very much ingrained in the community, and they've been on top of the issue, and they've addressed the issue in their solutions, which is great, right? We've got open ham clock here, which we already mentioned, right? This one is not going to do well. Now, the flip side is hopefully that team will be able to vibe code a better solution, right? But I don't know if they're working on it or not. As early as next week, the satellite tracking portion of that could fail. And depending on how they handle failure within their app, the whole thing could fail potentially. And I'm not saying it's going to, but I'm saying that's potential, right? If there's not good error handling, I have no idea what this looks like. But if you've got a component in the system that does not work, and depending how that manifests itself, right, it can have collateral damage within the application. Now, if I was unable to identify any intel, right, on the application, then I just left it in an unknown state, right? Ham Radio Deluxe is a closed-sourced commercial application. I don't know if they have addressed this issue, right? Now, the good news is, and I forget the gentleman's name, who owns this and is the primary coder for this. He goes to all the ham fests. I'm just blanking on it right now. I can see him and I can see his daughter as plain as day. I just can't think of his name. But, they are actively developing and improving the software all the time. I'm not going to be surprised if this is ready, right? I think there's a high chance that this is going to be ready. This one here, I think, might surprise some folks and might bum some folks out, right? The CSN Technologies SAT box. From what I can tell, this is not fully ready today, right? And I was able to find some discussion threads through some of the various, some of this came through AMSAT BB, which is a email list that you can subscribe to, and there's a lot of good discussions on there about this topic and many, many, many others. But in the most current information I could find about the SAT box, right, that this is work that's in process, but has not been deployed yet. The firmware has not been released yet and deployed to these units. So this is one that could break. Now, we should talk here for a moment. What does it mean it's going to break? Right? What exactly does that mean? So, for all of the 69,999 pieces of tracked junk or stuff in space, right? Their numbers don't change. And so if the application is able to process individual TLEs, that's still going to work just fine, right? These old satellites will probably work and track just fine. Now, what's going to be interesting is if these guys are doing downloads of the full data set and parsing that data set and loading the detail for the satellites you have chosen within your application, right? If it's doing that kind of bulk processing, it's likely that it's going to fail because, again, it's going to have that alpha character in this what's expected by many programs to be an integer field, and it's probably going to choke and fail, right? So some stuff may work just fine with the older data, depending on how they're bringing data into their solution. Others may fail. So, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. Let's see what else is on the list here. I don't know if any of these are standing out to you guys where you're interested in them. Here's some mobile apps. Right? Not a lot of information. These are all kind of closed source. And I have to look at ISS detector. It used to be, and I don't know if this is still the case. It used to be before the big rewrite that you could upload your own TLEs for a particular satellite. Tim, yes, it's actually, I'm gonna publish it I'm gonna publish it to the public here later this evening or first thing in the morning. So these are actually not publicly accessible yet. I wanted to save them for the late shift here. But I'm just going to take a look here and see. Gosh, I wonder if I can even find where that was. I am not sure that. I'm just looking through the app here. I'm not sure that you can actually upload your own TLEs to ISS detector anymore. You used to be able to do that. You can view the orbital data the TLE data that it's using, and they're still using the TLE data, right? If I show you the app there, and you probably won't be able to see it, but they're actually using TLE data that looks, very much like the data that we're showing here. That's what they're showing on screen for the data that's used for the past predictions. But I don't know that you can do that anymore. So, and I am not super familiar with all of these apps. I've tried them at one time or another. We've talked about, we've talked about AMSATing here on the channel a few months back. Let me pull that one up real quick. and see if there's anything here that looks like I can upload my own TLE data. I know that you can do that with some apps and some you can't, I guess is the bottom line, right? And that's the reason why I provided some sample data here. If you have an app that will allow you to upload your own TLE data for a particular satellite, you can come in here, you can copy some of this Alpha 5 data and try to upload it and see if the application will accept it, right? That'll let you know if it can use the Alpha 5 process. If it allows you to update the OMM files, then, you know, you can do that as well right here. So that's the whole idea behind those. But, you know, in some of these, they're going to be a wait and see type scenario. Right now, I added the BTEC UV Pro software here. Now, this is, you guys may remember, right? This is the BTEC UV Pro has a companion application that is used to do the satellite tracking, right? So it's a combination of the firmware and the app. So, you know, those guys are going to have to upgrade and update as well. Right now, you know, we have our friends over at TinyGS, right? They do satellite tracking within their website. You know, I wasn't able to find anything one way or another, whether or not they're using OMM data or TLE data, right? But these are all applications and solutions that we're going to have to keep an eye on. And here, you know, Tim had introduced Typhoon Tim had introduced me to the card pooter. This little guy right here, right? And there's a couple of applications, firmwares available for it, and one of those, CardSat, is ready, which is great. And again, these are open source applications, so you can go out, look at the source, and you know, kind of interrogate the source and look for hints that tell you that it's ready, right? This thing is using, this thing talks about pulling full integers from JSON file. That tells you right away they're using OMM data. So this one's ready, but this one here is not completely ready, right? So some are going to work, some are not. And that's basically what it comes down to. Now, if you guys happen to hear, if one of your applications starts choking, doesn't work, you know, shoot me a note, shoot me an email, let me know, hit me up on Discord, and I'll update the tool here so that you know, we can just share this information. And if I missed an application that you're familiar with, and if you know, just give me the application name, I'll add it, do some research on it. If you already know the details, if you provide that, then I can add that to the list here as well. All right, let me catch up with you guys in the chat. What's going on here? Let's see. Dawn says PST rotator crashes on him daily, but he still pays for it and it does the thing. Well, it'll be interesting. You know, hopefully you'll get to see some updates here, Dawn, that maybe fix some of those crash issues, as well as some of the TLE data related issues. Let's see. What else are you guys chatting about here? Yeah, Jason, you know, testing your code is certainly, and I'm just, I think I'm catching the gist here, right? Testing today is so much easier than it has been. There's really no excuse to not test. test your software, certainly. Probably be a good idea. Now, some of the other things, right, for you makers out there, folks that are maybe using some of these libraries, where I could determine it, I identified the version in which that application or that library was updated, right? So that's the other, wrinkle and caveat to this here is, okay, you might have an application that's using Python SGP4, but it might be a version prior to 2.14. And if it's using that version prior to 2.14, then it's not going to work, right? So, for some of you folks that are writing software or creating solutions, hopefully this gives you at least some insight and a place to start to make sure that you're on an appropriate version, right? And if you're building something yourself, right, usually the best course of action is to use the latest, certainly. Let's see. CelesTrak. So CelesTrak, they are certainly, I could add something here. Did I not? I thought I had something. Maybe not. I can add them here to the network section. They are very familiar and well aligned and ready to go. Right. A lot of folks this is the source of data for a lot of folks. So, through their APIs. So, CelesTrak is ready to go. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, Don, I think, certainly from a professional standpoint, in QA is where we started using AI most extensively, and that's to write test cases and write automated tests for regression testing. It's really good at that. Right, let's see. I think I caught up with any comments here related to the topic. I know you guys have some other side stuff going on as well. I'll leave you guys to that. All right. Let's see here. Oh, I guess we can go back and talk a little bit about open hand clock, right? So this is right, and this is one of the challenges with vibe coding here. A lot of times a vibe coded solution is based on an example or based on prior code, right? I mean, it's that's how the AI was trained. That's how the LLM was trained. And so, oftentimes you're going to perpetuate some of these processes that are more legacy type processes, unless, right? I mean, I think everyone's understanding these days that prompt engineering is a real thing. Knowing how to prompt an AI and getting appropriate context and providing appropriate tooling to the LLM is all critical to getting the best product or output, right? And so, and again, I think those are ideas and notions that are more understood in professional environments and less so in hobby environments, right? So, um, you know, I wasn't surprised at all to see that Openham Clock is suffering from some of these issues. Um, and again, on the flip side, hopefully they're working on this. Hopefully they're aware of this. One of the other things I'm going to do after this stream, I'll probably give it a few days to see if I get any feedback from you folks in the community. But one of the things that I want to do is where I can identify the author of these applications, I'm going to reach out to those folks and say, hey, I'm trying to put together this this resource, and I'm curious if you've already solved for this TLE 5-digit integer issue, and hopefully, and I'll point them toward the resource so they can see what I've done, and hopefully they take that in a constructive in a constructive way. That's certainly going to be my intent in reaching out to some of these folks, but to just get definitive and conclusive answers on some of these items that are unknown. Because again, I think if people start having trouble with a particular application, and they could come here and they could see, oh yeah, this thing's not ready. This thing is known to be broken. I think that's helpful to folks, right? Whereas if it's supposed to be ready and it's able to handle the new formats, then maybe they want to submit a bug report. Maybe they want to submit one anyhow. But just for the sake of completion and trying to provide the best resource possible, I am going to reach out to those authors that I can identify and see if I can get a definitive answer on these unknown items. Let's see here. Yeah, Arnie, that's certainly the case, right? Arnie's saying vibe coding is an AI-assisted development practice where you describe your project or feature in plain natural language. Definitely. But there are some techniques that are more successful than others, and some tools that are better than others. And I'm not just talking about the LLM themselves. There's a tool, AWS has a tool called Kiro that is their LLM-based development tool, and it is it's a tool that tries to work. It's almost like a test-driven development process, right? Those test-driven processes where you kind of define the outcome or what the outcome should be. You create the test for what the outcome should look like, and then you kind of work backwards to create that solution. Kiro is a requirements-based type of environment where you can give it all kinds of tools plus all of the natural language descriptions of what you're trying to accomplish. So you have to use all of those different tools. Tim, I sent you an invite to the ISS Detector Discord. Yeah, I email with Dirk from time to time. That's how I've had my most successful interactions with him. I don't know. I don't think I have his. Thanks for sharing that, though. I don't think I've got his Discord. But he's been great about working via email. I'm just kind of curious now. Do I have the ISS detector one out there? I don't. Oh, no, I don't. I don't think I do. So I'll add that to the other bazillion Discords I've got. But yeah, that's certainly helpful. Let's see. All right. Yeah, it looks like we got a lot of satellite rig discussion going on. That's always fun. So that's good stuff. So again, I'm going to get this pushed out to the public website either tonight or tomorrow, depending on when we finish up. But again, this will be a resource that hopefully is helpful to some folks. I'm going to send out the updated TLE Explorer. I'm also pushing out the TLE catalog, readiness page as well. And then I think I've got a landing page that I'm going to be pushing out with this as well. So I've added just some new capabilities here so I can start add some additional tooling here. Before anybody asks, yes, it does have dark mode. So you guys will be able to use dark mode on all these pages here. So you've got dark mode. Not sure I'm happy with the menuing system yet, though, but it'll do for now. I think we'll get it out so folks can start using it. And then I want to start adding some additional pages now that I've got a little bit more structure to the site here. So keep an eye out for that. I'll certainly post that. I'll post it through YouTube in a YouTube post. I'll probably post it out on X as well if you guys follow on X. I also have a companion article that I'm going to post out on Buy Me a Coffee. And that's going to just have a lot more context, have some history. If you're interested in all the acronyms and how all these different things work, that'll be a good resource for you guys out there as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be getting all that stuff out to the community here like I said, either this evening or tomorrow. It's all pretty much ready to go. I just need to push it out. All right. I think that's everything I wanted to cover tonight for the topic. Certainly, if you guys have any detail or information about these tools or new tools, or if you're building a tool and you want that tool added to the list, let me know and I can do that as well. I know some of you are out there feverishly working at creating some cool stuff that's satellite related. So looking forward to that. All right. So what else are we talking about out there? What's my call sign? W5ITR. Yeah. I do have a video out on the YouTube channel that goes through my current FM satellite rig in detail. That is, that's due to be updated, and that is likely going to include one of these new chest rigs. These look pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about these. I'm so excited that they've got some Molly on the front of one of these again. That's going to just make this so much more useful. I don't know if you guys have seen this or looked at this. I don't know. Does anybody have one of these? I'm curious if anyone has one. But you know, they've got a bunch of hook and loop with some MOLLE attachments on the inside. The larger one here, the Force, has 3 pockets. The Fury has 2 pockets with this kind of see-through material that they've used in some of their different organizational material, or their little bags and such. Looks like they've also got another zipper pocket up there. So I'm really excited to get my hands on these and check them out. So yeah, and here's the Fury, right? So this has got a pouch on that wing right here on the Fury. So that's kind of interesting too. This one is not quite as wide, and it's not quite as deep. So, and when I say not as, I'm comparing it to the Multipack that I use today. The Multipack is 10 wide and 3 deep. So this one is just a little bit smaller from that standpoint. But you can't really tell if something's actually going to fit until you try it, right? And try to kind of manipulate it and see how it's going to work. But, you know, certainly you could put the Recon rangefinder pouch right here. That Recon rangefinder pouch is a MOLLE attachable pouch that is the perfect size for a 3 amp hour Bio-NO battery. So that's why I use that. But yeah, if you want to see what I'm rocking today, you can go check out that video, and I go through it in great detail. But looking forward to doing an update to that, certainly. Let's see, what else are you guys chatting about? That's the battery pouch. Yeah, that thing is perfect fit. So the setup for vertical, Chris, I've got an interesting solution for that as well. Let me try to do a little. Let me do a little look in here. It may work on this as well. I like there's a little strip of MOLLE attachable material down at the bottom there as well. Let's see what's on the back of this thing. Show me. Oh, it's got a turn down card. There's probably a better term for that. A hook and loop card, so you can attach something below that as well. Okay, all right, here it is. Let's see. I want to look at this. Those buckles, that might work. So Chris, I've got a solution that I use with my 818, 817 pair for a chest rig. And that is a vertical configuration. I have got to do a video on that as well. And it works great for the 818, 817. I think you could use the same approach with other rigs as well. You may have to add some side rails to it, but that's super easy to do, especially for most of you guys with 3D printers. But yeah, I've got a solution there, Chris. I'll take some pictures of that and get it out to you so you can see what I'm working with. Well, I don't know if it'll work for this bag, but it works for another bag that I'm using. It works fantastic for another bag that I'm using. Let's see. What else do we have to chat about? Okay, so let's see. Is Don still out there? Is he still hanging with us? I took a note down, and he asked if I was doing something with 44net. I'll give him just a second and see if he pipes up. Or let me scroll back and see if he was a recent commenter. See if he's still out there. I don't see him in a recent comment. But so we did a little experiment during field day this year. And while we had everyone together, it was just easier to do. I mean, it's really proof of concept more than anything. It didn't wasn't a practical or useful POC really. It was truly a proof of concept. So we had a bunch of guys there. I had them all get their 44 Connect account before, get their account situated before field day, so we could try this while we were at field day. And what we did is we had everybody connect. If you think about it, you're all connecting to the 44net network whenever you VPN to your 44net Connect dedicated IPs, right? So if I, on my laptop, if I connect to 44net, I am essentially on the 44 network. And then Jason went ahead and connected to 44net using his own VPN. And we were using separate internet connections just to kind of further the premise of the POC. And when we both were connected, we were able to address each other's machines. We could ping each other. We were essentially on the same network at that point, right? We used the internet to connect to a 44net LAN, essentially, right? So how's that useful? What's that useful for, right? What we could have done if we wanted, and instead of doing this, we used World Radio League, which was an interesting experience for field day. But if we wanted to, we could have run a network-based logger and use one of our laptops as a server. And essentially, if everybody connected via VPN to 44net, they could have all hit that same server because we're essentially on the same network. Now that might seem a little odd when you're all sitting in the same room, right? You could pull out a switch and connect everybody to that physical switch and be on the same network as well. But, when you think about, okay, as a proof of concept that works, now we could disperse all of those people to different corners of the earth. And if they could get a VPN connection, then they're all on the same network when they are geographically dispersed like that, right? So it just makes you start thinking about other use cases for 44net. If you wanted to have a LAN party and play Doom, you could do that on 44net and you could do it right strewn across the world. So you could have one local machine running the Doom server, and everybody else could connect to it, and you could play across 44net with your VPN connection. Let's see. So, you know, it's another interesting capability that you've got in your bag of tricks, right? If you've got that, and it doesn't cost you a thing to get it or to have it. Now, I say it doesn't cost you anything, but please, if you get a 44net Connect account and you start using that VPN, make sure you've got appropriate firewall on your machine, right? Because when you use that VPN, you're now you're bypassing any network security or network protection that you have through your router. You're bypassing that completely. So you better have something on your PC. Right? Because if you don't have something on your PC, you are essentially on 44net. You're essentially on an internet connected IP with no protection at all. So just something to keep in mind, right? You know, on my little Linux laptop that I like to use for all my ham radio stuff, I've got my 44net Connect WireGuard configuration on there, but I'm also I've got that device locked down to where I'm only accepting, you know, very specific traffic. I'm only opening very specific ports. I know I've got appropriate controls on those ports. Just make sure you do that due diligence if you're going to run a VPN connection straight from your laptop. Yeah, you're not kidding, Jamp. It's I mean that's a great benefit. All right, let's see. And who gives me a single IP address? I'm trying to catch up with your question there, Pepe. So Pepe, you know, when you sign up for your 44net Connect account, and once you go through the setup process, and you know, we did that several months back on the channel, and I'm going to have John from the ARDC on. I know he was just on Josh's channel a few weeks back, so they're getting ready to release a bunch of updates. And when they release those updates, and these updates are designed to make things even easier and simpler for folks to get started. When they get those updates pushed out, John's going to come on the channel and we're going to talk about that. But, you know, Pepe, essentially you go out, you set up your account. Gosh, I got an eyelash or something in my eye. Set up your account. Once you get approved, you'll get a handful of addresses that you can use in any way that you choose that are ham radio related. So what a lot of people do is they'll set up a VPN and they'll use it as a VPN endpoint, especially if they've got Starlink or something like that. If they need to get past a CGNAT a carrier grade NAT. That's a great use case for it. Folks will use it in a similar fashion to get past their CG NAT for a All-Star node device. So their All-Starlink node device. So that's one of the things that I want to go through with John is a list of use cases, right? These are kind of well documented and well understood, and easy use cases for people to get their arms around. Where do you open an account? So you can, yeah, let me find it here for you. Okay, let me make sure I got the right spot. Let's see if they've updated any of this yet. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So if you just go to, here, let me drop this in the chat. I'll put this in the show description for later so you guys have it as well. Let me see, where'd my chat go? There you go. That'll get you here to 44net Connect. It's connect.44net.cloud. And if you just scroll down, right, this will tell you all about it. And if you just scroll down here, you can get to this blue box that says ready to get started and create your account. Right? And you can go through this process. Now, some things to keep in mind, Pepe, when you're getting ready to do this, get a copy of your license, your ham radio license, right? This is a resource that's only available to ham radio operators. You have to have a ham license. You can be anywhere in the world and still qualify, but you have to have a license, and they request that as part of the setup process. You have to provide a copy, either a JPEG, PNG, or PDF of your official license. So that's how they qualify you. That's how they validate that you're a ham. So you can go back and check out that live stream from a few months back too, Pepe. Now, you'll see it's a bit convoluted, and it took us a lot longer than it should have whenever we worked through it on stream. And those are some of the hurdles that ARDC is getting cleaned up. And that's what John's going to come on and talk about as soon as those are ready. Man, this is good. So I got a new flavor. I don't know if you guys are Ghost Energy drinkers. This raspberry cream is fantastic. Wow. Yeah, you're welcome, Pepe. All right, let's see. Jamp's asking a question here. Uh-oh, calling Dawn out. Is that 100% true, Dawn? They offer a modified version of OpenWRT depending on the router you purchase. However, you should be able to inevitably rock true OpenWRT with some work. All right, you guys are on a side quest there. So Don, I don't know if you heard my whole spiel there about 44net, and when we were at field day, Frank had it, Jason had it. Did we get Paul squared away? Yeah, we got Paul hooked up with it as well, and we all connected to it. And I wanted to see if there was any isolation between those accounts, and there is not. Right, so whenever you set up a Wi-Fi router in your house, when users connect to that Wi-Fi router, default is typically that you have isolation between machines, right? So that one machine can't just start interrogating another machine. And I was curious if there was isolation between allocated networks, right? Whenever you get your 44net account, you get a slash, I can't remember, maybe a /26, something like that. Maybe it's not a 26, maybe. Let me see if I can log in real quick and take a look. I don't recall. They will pretty much give you what you ask for if you can substantiate the need. But by default, I'm trying to remember what they... Let me see. I may have put some nasty old password on that. Oh yeah, I sure did. Okay. Well, that looks weird. That was weird. Okay, let me see here. So yeah, so this is some of the, here, let me get to another page. I'll show you some of the wonkiness that's still kind of out there. Okay, let me show you some of this. So the legacy portal, and let me find my chat so I can keep an eye on you guys and make sure I'm answering any questions you might have. So the legacy portal is called Amper, is portal.amper.org. And so I went to, and this is kind of weird. Well, now I can't even get there. So I went to the Connect 44net cloud, and I told it I wanted to log in. And when I logged in, it took me to the AmperNet portal, which is just kind of weird. Right now, there's still a lot of administrative stuff that happens here in the AmperNet portal. But I think I can also see, No, this isn't what I want to look for. I don't want to, I'm trying to make sure I don't confuse you guys. Let me go here. This is probably the better place. So this is the new 44net Connect. But there's still some kind of dependencies between these two different portals. Let's see here. Let's see. So I have my tunnels. I've got a couple of different tunnels. I've got one for a mobile device. I've got one for a laptop. Oh, wait, let's see. I'm trying to think where they actually show your allocation. This just gives you a little bit of a representation of where you're connecting. One of the edge locations or points of presence for 44net is right here in Dallas, which is kind of nice. We've got a really close point of presence. Let me look here. Here it is. Let's see. I'm trying to see where. Here. Yeah, it looks like there's still some funkiness going on here. I don't see. Here, let me look somewhere else. Trying to find where my allocation is. Maybe it's in my profile. I'm not showing some of the screen because it'll have, when you go in and look at your profile, things like your API token are in there. Some stuff that you don't really want to share on a live stream. Let's see here. I know it's in here someplace where you can see what your allocation is. I just, for the life of me, can't find it. Oh, I'll check here. So they give you a /28. So just if you don't request something specific or have a specific use case, if you don't lobby for a certain network size, you'll get a /28. And that's not bad at all, right? I mean, that gives you 14 usable hosts. So let's see. Okay, let me see here. A couple of questions. Dawn says, there are two things you can request, a network or a tunnel. You can then assign a network to the tunnel. You are isolated from the tunnel IP by the network IP. Let me think about what you just said there. Yep, so you can request a tunnel. You can then assign a network to the tunnel. You're isolated from the tunnel IP. Okay. Let me see. There's another comment out here. Jamp asks, how do you like your monitor setup? That seems like too many to me. Two's my max. Yeah, so I like it. It's so I've got 4, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess just 4. So I've got 4 monitors, and I've got 4 computers hooked up to those 4 monitors. So my Windows machine is capable of, and it's a little ThinkStation. It's capable of output to 3 monitors. So when I'm running Windows, I can run up to 3 monitors. I've got a Mac Mini that is configured to run on 2 monitors. I've got a work laptop that's configured to work on 2 monitors, and then I've got a Raspberry Pi that's running Pop OS that can run on 2 monitors. So depending on which machines I have active or in focus, I guess is the way to think about it, I can have multiple screens. So in most cases, I'm using 2 monitors per device, except for the Windows machine. It's capable of 3. So I hope that makes sense. All right, let's see. Yeah, you certainly want to sign up for 44net. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. It's free if you're a ham. And, they're continuing to put money into the infrastructure. So, I think I think it's reasonable to expect that it's a network and ecosystem that's going to grow and provide additional resources to hams. Yeah, Dawn. I think as soon as I see what you're saying, I certainly agree in terms of, not wanting to show some of those screens, and that's where some of the configuration is. Whenever they do the updates that they have in process right now, and I expect those, I mean, like, when I last talked with John, he was just getting ready to go on vacation, and he expected, like, whenever he came back from vacation, that they might be ready to go. But as soon as that stuff is ready, I'm going to do a video that tries to show the happy path and how to do that in an easy way. Dawn says they were happy to give me a /16. Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you make a request, they will, and you have a valid use case, they're happy to give you those addresses, right? Jamf, yeah, I have this Avacent. It is kind of a crazy KVM. They're really expensive, but they really work. I've tried a bunch of cheap KVMs and KVMs that require you to use special dongles and all of that nonsense, right? That's where some of those cheap KVMs get you. You buy the KVM and you're like, oh, that doesn't seem that expensive. But then you have to buy a special dongle to work with a particular machine. And each of those dongles is, just an extra expense. And it's not like they're not giving those away. So the Avocents use like standard connectivity, USB, HDMI, like normal connectivity. They're expensive, but man, they're good. Let's see. And with each device, are you changing the connection of the monitor to one of your different computers? Yeah. So whenever I do, whenever I change, when I hit my, the first option, that connects my keyboard and mouse to my Windows machine, let's say. That's not actually the number, but just for ease of discussion, right? So it connects the keyboard, mouse, and other USB peripherals to that device. And all those monitors light up then whenever I have focus on that device. Hope that makes sense. And so if I switch like to my work laptop, for instance, right, then now the focus changed to that laptop and my monitors switch over to those my monitors switch over, my keyboard and my mouse switches over, and I've got a mix, right? I've got Windows, Linux, and Mac all in the mix here, and it works with all of them. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they still have those weird dependencies on Amper, on the Amper portal. Very, very interesting. But it's nice, like, I have a USB camera. And so when I switch between devices, my camera switches, my keyboard switches, my mouse switches, all those things switch. So that makes it pretty sweet. Works the way you would hope it would, right? The way you would expect it to. Let's see, what else do I have? What other kind of... I had, I broke out the tiny SA to play with that LED neon rope light. And I forgot just how much fun and cool these things are. I'm gonna be doing some more stuff with these. I completely forgot that these things do signal generation. These things really are a great device. You can't beat them for the price. Can't beat them with a stick, man. These things are awesome. But I just forgot how fun they are. All right, let's see here. Arnie says, I have to go to bed before July 11th. Uh-oh. Thanks for hanging out, Arnie. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you have a good weekend. Let's see. Pepe, I guess I saw your question there. I don't know that I answered it. It's called an AMSAT. That's the brand. Let me see if I can find. I've had this thing for years too. This thing is like, it's been a tank. Knock on wood. I would hate if this thing dies. Let me see if I can find. All right, let's see here. These guys do all kinds of stuff, right? They do the KVM over IP switches. Those are the ones drive me nuts. I can't stand those, right? Those require all those dongles. And I mean, they're great in a data center, but ugh. Vertiv is the parent company, so don't get confused by that. Let's see here. You guys can see they do all kinds of interesting stuff. I just want to see the KVMs. How do I get to the KVMs? Desktop KVM. Is this it here? This might be it. This is a different model, but it's essentially the same type of thing. Let me see if I can find the right model. No, it's not it. That looks kind of like it, but I'm looking at it as this is maybe a different version. Yeah, I mean, this is very similar. It looks like it might be a different version. I've got the four device version. What was this first one up here? Yeah, this is the same kind of thing. Does this one have? Yeah, this one. The other thing it'll switch for you is your mic and your headphones. So it handles that as well. So let's say a SwitchView 300. That looks like it's probably comparable, probably the newer version of the one I have. I don't have this beast. I don't know what the difference is there. Oh, that's an IP switching solution. Yeah, it's definitely not that. This one here looks pretty bad. I'm glad I didn't see this one. Let's see. What is all this stuff going on here, though? I'm not sure what all this craziness is. Oh, I think you can have maybe 4 computers to 4 monitors. I think that's what that's. I think you can probably cross these lines is what I'm guessing. Oh gosh, I wish I wouldn't have saw that. All right, so let's see. That's called the SwitchView Matrix, and then the SwitchView 300. Let's see. There's the 100, the 300. Oh, that's a 3000. That's not it. Let's see. I just remember it was painful. I lamented. I don't recall paying that for it. Let's see what this is when it comes up. Is it going to come up? Holy crap. I did not pay this for it. So it's definitely, there's better pricing out there than this, but this is essentially, this is it, right? Because you got the 4 buttons, you've got some additional USBs, you got a mic, and you got a headphone. These things are rock solid. All right, now I'm curious where that, what was that other one called? The switch matrix? Switch view matrix. I probably don't want to see the price on this bad boy. Oof. I'm guessing you can probably do better than that. I mean, I do recall these things were not cheap. All right, let's see. Number of computers controlled, 8. Oh, I want that. Oh, I want that so bad. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I've got my, oh, I could use that. Oh my gosh, that's painful though. All right, let's see. So it can control 8 computers, a keyboard, a USB keyboard, a USB mouse, HDMI, and DisplayPort. That's the other thing that's nice, is that these also support DisplayPort, so makes it nice if you're connecting to, you know, anything that's a Lenovo, and I like Lenovo equipment. 2 HDMI ports, 2 display ports, console, USB, USB-A, USB Type B. Oh, it can do a 4K Ultra HD screen. Nice, perfect. That's what I run. What else? No display, you don't need it. Oh, that thing is, wait a minute. What's the difference here? Whoa, hold the phone. This is the 180 DPH 400. What's this? The 140. So this guy can, let's see what this guy does. This guy's $1,200. Still expensive, but let's see what this guy does. Yeah, controls 4. So I'm already controlling 4. This doesn't do anything that I can't already do. But this bad boy, or this bad boy, I'm going to have to get on the lookout for one of these, see if I can find this at a much, much better price. These things are so good. They're such good. They just work, right? They're the type of thing, they just work. You pay for them, but boy, they just work. All right, Jamp, thanks for hanging out, buddy. Have a great weekend. Let's see. Pepe, sorry, Rob, that my questions are getting now expensive. Yeah. You know, this is, I remember it took me a long time to convince myself to pull the trigger on this one that I have. And I've had it for years. And I've been so happy with it that, you know, how sometimes you buy some of these things and you get some buyer's remorse. I've never had, once I hooked it up, I've never had a day of buyer's remorse for it. It just works, and it's just like solid and steady. And I've, like I said, I've played with so many other, like cheap KVMs, and they just always frustrate you. So with KVMs, you certainly get what you pay for, but man, I don't remember putting that kind of change down for it. Oh, look at that. Nice. Congratulations, Tim. A second roof tower. Nice. Nice, nice. I tell you, I cannot wait for things to cool down just a little bit here. We are in like the dog days of summer right now. We've got, now, if you can believe it, we've got rumors of rain. I don't believe rain in Texas in July or August until I see it. But we've got 90s. It was 99 today. So we've got 90s all through the weekend. Now next week it's supposed to cool off. And what I mean by that is it's going to be 90 instead of 97, 99. But we're just in that mode right now. It gets down to like 79, 82, something like that. That's as cool as it gets overnight. Boy, I have, we've been so fortunate. We had such great weather coming through spring. We had rain. Like every week we would have a little bit of rain, and it kept things so nice and green, and it's fantastic, right? I mean, I haven't had to do anything to supplement the goats' feed. They've just been living off the pasture, and I haven't had to supplement them at all. Still haven't to this point, but things are starting to get crunchy out there. At least here, Dawn, are things getting crunchy for you as well? Let's see. Pepe's got 6:44 local time. All right. At one of the Swiss HQ stations. Oh, nice. Pepe, enjoy. Have fun. Thanks for hanging out with us. And I hope you have a great weekend. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'll be curious to hear how that goes for you. But thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time. Certainly. Let's see what else I've got news-wise for you guys. All right, let me throw this thing up for you guys and see if this is something you guys have an interest in. Let me find it real quick. Okay, where's it at? Gosh, what did I do with it? Okay, it might be... Where in the heck? Oh, you know what? It might be. Here it is. Here it is. Let me see. I'm just finding it here so I can bring this up for you guys. I'm curious if this is something you guys would be interested in checking out. Meaning it's something I can bring on to a live stream. Maybe do some videos on. Why in the world can't I? Where in the world? I'm looking for the company website. Goodness, do they? Where is this thing hiding? So this is a LoRaWAN IoT satellite gateway. I have no idea why I can't find a company website for it. Oh, wait a minute. It might be, it's got like a weird name. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. This thing's got like 3 names. All right, let me bring you guys in so you can see what the heck I'm talking about. All right. One of the names is Creative 5. One of the names is Hestia. And one of the names is Apal. Here it is. Okay. The Hestia. This is the one that I'd be looking at right here. So get this. Here's what this thing can do. This is a satellite gateway that works with NTN satellites. So these are geostationary satellites that you can interface LoRaWAN or anything that you can put on a Modbus serial connection. All kinds of sensors. You know, a lot of the stuff that we play with on like some of the Elecro sensors, some of the sensors that are available for some of the rack stuff. Yeah, really small data packets. That's exactly right, Jody. So, you know, one of the aspects of using these things is learning how to take your data and packaging it in an efficient manner. And it's because it is very low bandwidth, but it's a geostationary satellite. It's always there. It's always available. And so even in places where you can't get a cell signal, you're likely going to get one of these Skylo Inmarsat geo connections. I just think that is super cool. So my question to you guys is, would this be something you'd be interested in seeing on the channel? it's pretty neat technology. This CARES or Ceres hub, I'm not sure how you say that, is the platform that you can use to collect and display the data. But Jody, it sounds like you've got some experience with it, or you've at least you're at least familiar with it. Have you ever tinkered with it, or this is, I think, in commercial IoT spaces, this is one of the players out there. Let's see what they got listed here for use cases. Let's see, they got all this Indonesia, Taiwan, Japan disaster backup systems. Those are kind of interesting. Right, so this is all Internet of Things type of networks. Let's see. My only experience is paying for NTN. I've deployed it at remote mining sites. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, so Jody, I'm curious. I mean, the way I understand this works is, these NTN satellite networks, they don't work, too much differently than your cellular networks, right? So you can purchase a SIM, and you can prepay your SIM with a certain amount of data on it. Or I think you can get a plan as well. I'm not so sure about that. From my reading, it looks like this comes with a SIM that's got like, I don't know. I want to make sure I get it right. It's like 30,000 bytes. So to your point, it's, you have to be very efficient with your data. Yeah. So, Morgan, so the idea here is, certainly, I mean, this is more of kind of a, really kind of a commercial IoT thing, right? I don't think it's really designed, for consumer types of solutions. But for me, it's just super cool, right? I just love this technology. What the heck's going on here? You gonna let me download that? Okay. I love the technology. Okay, so here we go. RS 485 Modbus. So you could really interface any type of, you could do some sort of like, any type of serial connection to this RS 485. Let's see here. What's it capable of? So they have different versions. So you have the NTN only, that's the A1. The A2 does the NTN and LoRaWAN, and that's why that kind of caught my eye. You've got the NTN and BLE. NTN and DECT. I don't know what that is. So a couple of other technologies here I'm not familiar with. I don't know what these are. But I just love the idea of interfacing with this and being able to communicate to a geostationary satellite. It's on L-band. I think it does L-band and S-band. Yeah, that's the part I liked about it, Morgan, is that it was Modbus. So that's pretty straightforward. Here they have, looks like they give you an RS-85 cable to one of these, I don't know what these are called, this kind of mini plug type cable. It's waterproof, IP67. But I think it would be, you know, what I might try to do with it, if I would do it, is put, I think one of the things that would be fun to try, and I've done this with Meshtastic, and that was kind of fun, but I think this would be just even more cool. Not that it's necessarily practical or a necessity here, but I would like to put a LoRaWAN device on my goat herd, put it on, kind of my goats are interesting animals, right? You have they're certainly herd animals, but they have leaders, and the whole pack, the whole herd kind of respects and follows the leader. So if you put a LoRaWAN device on your lead goat, wherever that lead goat goes, all the other goats will follow. So I think it'd be cool to put a LoRaWAN device on one of the goats, have that LoRaWAN connectivity to this gateway, and pass that that location data through that satellite connection. That sounds like a neat, goat tracker, exactly. I just think that's a, kind of a proof of concept idea. That sounds like fun. By default, the layer 1, 2, 3, the link to the bird is not encrypted. Encryption is handled by the appliance. Okay. There were a few stories in tech news recently about totally unencrypted NTN traffic. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Well, and these things can interface with a Raspberry Pi, right? So that's the other interesting aspect of it, right? It just brings some of those different technologies that we've been playing with at various times into a new realm. And to me, that's kind of fun, right? It's like a new puzzle to figure out. Let's see. Yeah, so certainly as environmental monitors, right? I think that's a pretty self-explanatory. Let's see what the smart agriculture production, environmental sensors again. Now, the other thing that I think is cool, right? It's an IP67 type of device. You could put it on the top of the truck too, right? And have a vehicle tracker that's leveraging a geostationary satellite, which just is super cool if you're really getting off grid. Emergency SOS stand pairs. They call that a dongle. It's a big old dongle. That's a big dongle with a solar powered system. So you can power it by solar. Nice. You can have an SOS button. I guess that's kind of interesting. Maybe on campuses or whatnot. I don't know. Let's see. Life buoy. Oh, that's an interesting idea there. Certainly. I think we saw that one. So they keep showing it connected to this Modbus host. You can use a Raspberry Pi for that instead of using a dedicated Modbus host. Is there a satellite? So I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, they do the same thing with livestock. Livestock, that's exactly right. Yeah, any small microcontroller. Exactly. Exactly. So certainly not ham radio, but certainly radio related. Real-time remote access and alerts, managing device and connectivity. So I'll have to see how much I can learn about this Ceres Hub software platform. This is pretty impressive here too. You guys, you might not be able to see that. This thing operates in a range of between 5 to 24 volts. So that's pretty cool, right? That's a pretty wide range, operating range, and certainly helpful if you put it on a vehicle or something where you might get some variation in your power source. Directional radiation pattern, point it to the sky. 5.5 dB. Here, let me see. Let me see if I can make this bigger so you guys can see. It's kind of interesting to see these. There we go. Maybe that's one too many. Looks like it started. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, so it works on L band and S band. Multi-GNSS, GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, all the GPS receivers. So frequencies, less than 3 SWR, peak gain of 5 dBi, 50% efficacy, 5.5 dB isolation, directional 50 ohm impedance. How big is it? That's a good question. I just assumed it wasn't very big. Okay, dimensions. Here we go. 113 millimeters. 76 millimeters in diameter, 90 millimeters, so 5 by 3. So yeah, that fits in your hand, so pretty small. Modular, rugged, ready for remote IoT. These mounts are pretty cool looking. I don't think I saw a picture of the underside of it. Oof. Did one of these... I mean, they've got these, I'm guessing, these kind of round circular tabs here. Those must be where the cables go up through. I'm guessing. Much smaller than a Starlink. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, it's something I know just a little bit about. I don't know a lot about. I guess that's another reason why it's interesting to me. It's something I'd like to learn more about, just, you know, from a personal curiosity standpoint. I would like to see the underside of it, though. Let's see, maybe if I go back. I don't know what these things are. Let's see, partners, whatever. Let's see. Certification. What's certification? So it's FCC certified. Okay. Oh, wow. Look, these change. And that one's not certified. So interesting. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back. This is the one. Where do you buy them? You buy them on Amazon. Okay. Here we go. Check this out. An explosive view. Explodovision. So that looks like a cable gland that comes into it. They're not like cheap. Here we go. Two-way communication, IoT protocol, low power, scalable connectivity. Oh, yeah. Solar panel, battery. Doesn't take much, right? 5 to, what was it, 5 to 28 or 5 to 24 volts, something like that. Can build dashboard. Pretty cool. There you go. Have it on a boat. Oh, a little portable jobby. Interesting. Oh, there it is. Vehicle mount. That's what I'm talking about. What are the costs for the hardware? Yeah, so looks like that gateway device is $329. Oh wait, that's an A1. Let's find an A2. Logistics, supply chain, fisheries, surveillance, energy surveillance, maritime and aviation tracking. Deals. Is this the A2? This is the A2. Hey, I can put it on my tractor. Okay, let's see. Anytime, anywhere. MT6825 chip. Easy to set up with many accessories. Common industrial communication, RS485. 5 to 24 volts. Modbus protocol. Works anywhere in the world. Uses geostationary satellites. Made in Taiwan. 30 kilobyte satellite data plan included. It allows not only checking, collecting IoT data, but also configuring the system when necessary for the best remote management efficiency. Okay. Check that out. Okay. Build your NTN IoT network. Agricultural management. There we go. Interesting. I don't know. It certainly caught my eye. It's something that, I mean, I love the technology of it. I wonder, I bet you can, I bet you it supports MQTT as well. Let's see. Did we get a hit? Where did we get a hit? We got a couple hits. Where? I don't see it. Where is it? I hate whenever I get a hit and I can't find it. Oh, that didn't do anything for me. It must be buried in here. Oh, here's some other pictures. Let's see. Let's check out this. So Vlad has a pretty good review about it. Oh, there we go. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. What is that connector called? I'm not familiar with that. I'm sure it's some sort of standard connector. I just don't know what it is. Oh, maybe it says here 15 cm male to a mini connector. Well, I don't know if that told me anything or not. I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. I mean, it's just amazing that that anyone can buy one of these things and leverage a geostationary satellite. I think that just blows my mind. And part of me just wants to do that. I just want to do it. Yeah, that's did I not? Yeah, MQTT. I couldn't find it on there. It said there's 2 hits on the page. I just didn't see where it hit. Maybe it's in one of these. Ah, here we go. On the receiving end, the Cirrus Gate platform gives you options for routing your data to your own platform. Okay, so you can route that to MQTT brokers. And you can also send it to AWS and Azure IoT platforms. MQTT worked well for me. Ah, see, it just sounds like fun. Oh, it sounds like fun. Cool. Yeah, I think you're right. Jody. That makes sense. Yeah, all that overhead would just be wasting. Yeah, it'd just be a waste. So I was running some sort of little Python script in a virtual environment here. Module ready, IP ready, SIM ready, network registered, socket ready, AVBL equal 1. Model name Hestia A2. Firmware, Modbus ID, heartbeat, lat long, local port, remote IP, remote port. Password 0000. Let's see. I would tokenize stuff so you're only sending very small amount of single character payloads. Yep, that makes sense. There's an MQTT-SN protocol, low bandwidth for sensor networks, non-TCP though. That might be how the device gets to the cloud service. Let's see, what do we learn from here? RS-485 A and B. A minus B plus, ground. Okay. Oh, what are they trying to show us here? Guess this is not, maybe they're trying to show the payload size. Aha, thanks for hanging out, Jody. Have a great weekend. Maybe I'll catch you on Josh's stream tomorrow. All right, what time do we got here? I guess we made it to midnight. Let's see, IMSI downlink test dashboard. Downlink message. Yeah, some sort of encoded stream there, right? I don't know. I think it looks fun. We'll see. Maybe that's something, maybe I'll work on a use case. I mean, I got the goat tracker idea, but I'll try to come up with some other use cases that might spark the imagination of the chat. All right, I suppose it might be time to shut things down here. How many folks we have out there? We've got a few. We drop below 20 though. That's usually my cue once we get below 20 to start rolling up the sidewalk. So, hey, I want to say thanks to everybody for hanging out tonight. Hope that there was some good information, maybe something that you learned regarding the TLE data and the expiration of the old format. It'll be fun to watch how some of these products respond and mitigate the issues that appears that many of them still have. So it's going to be some interesting times. You know, some of those apps are pretty old. Some of those folks I don't know. I don't know the last time I saw a gpredict update to the code base at all. So this might be the final hammer for some of these old apps. I hope not. I really like gpredict. Like I said, once you get used to it, it's kind of like an old pair of shoes. But Morgan, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you, buddy. Have a great weekend. And for everyone else, have a great weekend. Get out, practice some radio, do something fun, try to stay cool, and stay out of the wild weather that we're seeing kind of all over the place. But it's great to spend some time with you folks, and we'll do it again next week. So hope you have a good one. Till then, 7-3 gang.